I'm warning you ahead of time. This podcast tonight is about to be the most depressing I told you so, maybe in the history of the Sacramento Kings. If you can't handle that right now, I understand. Click off the video, come back a little bit later on. If you need someone to be angry at after that Sacramento Kings performance, allow me to be that guy for you. I'll take on that mantra because everything bad that I told you was going to happen from the minute they fired Mike Brown, every single thing has come to pass, leaving the Sacramento Kings in a horrendous, directionless, futureless spot once again. It's a disaster here in Sacramento. And you are listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage now all offseason long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And y'all, I promise you, it takes me absolutely, there's no joy at all in being right. There's no joy at all in this performance tonight. The Sacramento Kings losing 120-106, and that final score is actually pretty friendly towards the Sacramento Kings based off of how this game went against the Dallas Mavericks tonight. I take no joy in it, even though I'm telling you it needed to happen. It needed to happen. The worst thing, truly the worst thing that could have happened for this organization is for the Kings to win 2 play-in games, make it to the actual playoffs, and regardless of what happened in that first round against the Oklahoma City Thunder, for this organization, ownership, the front office, locker room, whoever, fan base, talk themselves into this actually being a successful season for the Kings because they made the playoffs. Well, we didn't make the playoffs last year. We made the playoffs this year. Never mind that we lost six more games and we traded our franchise player and we fired our only good head coach that we've had in damn near 20 years. This was written all over the wall since December, 27th or 28th, the day that Mike Brown was fired. I told you it was the biggest mistake this organization could make, not simply because of Mike Brown, but because of the chain reaction that you were setting off for yourself. You fire Mike Brown, you lose De'Aaron in the process. You put your general manager in a horrible spot when his job is already on the line to make a trade without any leverage of that franchise player, potentially screwing up your entire future, all for a feeble attempt to actually make the playoffs. And then when you don't make the playoffs, now your GM is out of a job and your future is torched. It's cooked. All of this was laid out in the ugliest, most terrifying looking roadmap that you could see. I'm telling you, as much fun as that 7-game win streak was for Doug Christie, as great as it was to see that picture of Doug Christie on the roof next to the beam with this team, calling him the light of the city during that win streak, or beating the Cavs twice, beating the Celtics in Boston, as fun as those moments were, all it did was slightly distract you from the fact that this organization put themselves on a one-way trip back to basketball hell. And lo and behold, here they are again. It's played out exactly how I warned you. And again, I'm not trying to take any kind of credit for this. I don't want to be right. There's no joy in it. It's just the reality of this organization continuing to trip on their own freaking feet. They absolutely lay an egg in a poetically terrible end to this god-awful, depressing Kings season. And then not even an hour after the game is over, literally minutes after we finish speaking to DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine and Doug Christie, in their press conference. While players are still in the locker room with media members in the locker room, the news drops from Sam Amick of The Athletic that the Kings and Monte McNair have mutually agreed to part ways. Y'all, he was fired. Mutually agreed is a nice way or more gentle way to put it. Monte McNair was fired, and the writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall the entire time. We all knew if this didn't work, this desperate attempt to make the playoffs, if it did not work, Monte was out of a job. And hell, I've been arguing even if somehow it did work and they limped their way in the postseason, this needed to happen. Doesn't make it fun. Doesn't make it enjoyable. Doesn't make it any less painful. This needed to happen. Look, Monte wears a ton of blame for how this organization has plummeted over the last 2 years. They went from, pun intended with the beam, one of the brightest futures in the league. And in 2 years, it's completely fallen apart. 2 years and 2 days ago or a day ago was game one in this building where the Kings, led by De'Aaron Fox, one of the greatest playoff debuts in NBA history, defeated Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. That was just over 2 years ago. And here they are, back in a position where they've got talent, but that talent clearly, and it hasn't been cohesive, and there's no direction. There's no future with this organization right now. Monte wears a lot of the blame for that. But here's what Monte doesn't wear the blame for. Here's where ownership needs to look themselves in the freaking mirror. Whether they forced Monte to fire Mike Brown or not, that's irrelevant. Because they allowed a GM on his last leg to trade away De'Aaron Fox. They allowed their general manager to make a franchise, not just altering, franchise-like crumbling decision to trade away their franchise player in a desperate attempt to keep his job by fulfilling a short-sighted demand or mandate of making the playoffs by any means necessary. It was foolish from the start. And whether Monte McNair is responsible for all of it or none of it, he is still trying to fulfill the expectations placed upon him by the organization, and they allowed him to make this decision to try and save his job. It didn't work out. They're out of a star, and now they're in a lot of trouble going into this offseason. You have no general manager. You have no head coach. We'll talk about Doug Christie more in a second. You have no star. You have a bunch of number two guys. You likely won't have your first round pick. There's a very small chance they keep their first round pick, but it's probably not happening. And you've got $115 million tied up in three guys: DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, and Zach Lavine. And you could question whether all three of those guys even want to be here at this point. Complete disaster for this Kings organization that started in December. And here they are. Doug Christie is not to blame by any means for this. He's not blameless. He's not completely off the hook, right? He did not do a good job coaching this team tonight. This team in general did not do a good job anyway either. He's not completely off the hook. Unfortunately, this is not fair. I'm telling you, this is not fair. I think Doug Christie has to be a victim in all of this. And I told you on that episode where I was screaming and yelling about Mike Brown being fired because I saw this future, what has come to pass, I saw it happening that day. I also told you I'm rooting for Doug. I'm afraid he's being put in an impossible position by the organization that's going to end up hurting him more than helping him. And here we are. I think Doug has to go. I don't see, if you keep Doug Christie by forcing the new general manager to hire him, we talked about this before, it'll be the third time in the Vivek Ranadive ownership era that he's done this out of order, hiring Michael Malone before Pete D'Alessandro, forcing Monte McNair to inherit Luke Walton as a head coach. How long did that last? Now you want to do it for a third time? Again, ownership, look in the mirror. Look at your own track record. You going through head coaches like a carousel is not working. You forcing front offices to take on different coaches is not working, has not worked. You hiring the guy who lost the job to the general manager as their assistant general manager is a bad decision. Ownership needs to look themselves in the mirror, start fresh, and do this right. And doing it right means a clean slate. I'm not saying Doug Christie shouldn't be involved in the interview process. He absolutely should be. He has earned that at the very least. But let your new general manager, whoever it may be, and hopefully it's someone competent, let that general manager make their decision. If they like Doug, it is their decision 100% without an inkling of influence from anybody in this organization. If they don't and they pick a different head coach, you support that decision. That is what needs to happen. It's the bare minimum of what needs to happen this summer for the Sacramento Kings. Quick pause here as I tell you about a couple great sponsors of the Locked On Kings podcast, the first being Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try, and let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, fit, comfort, or just finding the right style. Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and of style. Personally, I tried the Skims boxer brief, and I'm hooked, right? They sent us one to try when they became sponsors of the podcast. I bought like 5 more within a week. They're perfect for an active lifestyle, whether you're like me running around chasing a basketball team or other sporting event all the time, or you're out playing golf or whatever. And they're also comfortable if you're just sitting around at a cubicle in an office getting your work done, right? Comfort is so important. Or if you're working out, Skims can handle all of that and more. The lightweight material feels amazing. It feels honestly like you're almost wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Again, let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show, Locked On Kings, in the drop-down menu that follows. And like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Not that we would know that here in Sacramento, or we're going to have to wait a while to hear that here in Sacramento. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment, it feels huge. And the electricity in the arena tonight for a play-in game was second to none. With Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Last-minute deals are incredible. Literally second to none. You won't find better deals at the last minute anywhere else, whether you're buying tickets to a sporting event, a concert, a comedy show, a theatrical production, whatever. They're all in pricing, means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, needless to say, the Sacramento Kings have a lot of massive decisions to make this summer. I'm glad they didn't waste any time with the first one, relieving Monte McNair of his duties. I will say this really quickly, too. Over the last handful of years, I've gotten to cover Monte McNair. Every time I've interacted with McNair, he's been nothing but professional. He managed to do what many could not. He managed to get this team back to the playoffs. He managed to get this team to 3 straight 40-plus win seasons. I know it's gone downhill since being Team 1, but I admire him and credit him for the work that he's done. And I appreciate the opportunity to cover him. And I wish Monte and his family, his wonderful family, nothing but the best. That being said, the GM decision is the first domino to fall, right? You fired your GM, now you go out and do a thorough, correct search to find your next one. After that, you allow that one to hire a head coach. If it's Doug Christie, great. If it's somebody else, great. Like we just laid out, as long as that GM is the one that decides it, he and the staff that he puts together, not the staff that you impose upon him based off of the people that you also interviewed for the job. None of that bull crap anymore. No Monte McNair and Wes Wilcox 2.0, please God. Get your coach and your general manager and your front office in order. After that, you talk about that big 3 that makes that $115 million. We'll start with Domantas Sabonis. I'll be honest with y'all. Look, if you've listened to me on Locked On Kings for the last handful of years, you know how much I've been a champion for Sabonis. I told you repeatedly on this podcast that when Sabonis got back to the postseason, that he would shut a lot of people up, that he would perform, that he would be better than what he showed in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors, that he would silence all the critics, silence all the doubters. Domantas Sabonis was god-awful tonight. Shameful tonight. 11 points, 5 of 13 shooting from the field, 13 rebounds, double-double, yay, who cares? 5 assists, 5 turnovers. Completely outplayed, not just by Anthony Davis, by Daniel Gafford, hell, even by Derek Lively. Completely outclassed. A pathetic performance. It doesn't change how I feel about Sabonis. I'm not out on Domantas Sabonis, but damn it, here was your opportunity to shut up a lot of those people that I know get to Domas. I know for a fact he hears that noise. Here's your opportunity to do so against a rival in Anthony Davis that you've dominated for the majority of your career, and you crapped the bed more than anybody else on this Kings team tonight. Just an embarrassing performance. There's nothing to take away from this performance as positive. Zero. There's no defense for how Domantas Sabonis played in this game. None. You got completely outclassed. You proved everybody who says you can't get it done in the playoffs, that you're empty calories, empty stats, empty numbers during the regular season. You proved all of them right by how bad you were on your home floor against a team that is worse than you, in front of your home crowd, for your head coach, the one that you wanted and the guy that you love above everybody else. That's the performance you gave for him to try and save his job and give him a chance. That's the performance you gave for the general manager that chose you over De'Aaron Fox. You want clarity of the direction of this organization this summer? Get in freaking line. Because the direction that this organization has taken has you right at the center of it. And it sucks, man, because I believe so much in that man as an NBA player. I believe you can be a winning basketball team with Domantas Sabonis as your center. But the time for freaking talk is over. On Locked On Kings, on whatever Netflix documentary that he's on, whatever. The time for talk is over. Go out there onto the floor and in super meaningful games, freaking prove it. And he didn't. Kings have a decision to make with him this summer. I don't care about what his decision is. I don't care what the Kings need to tell him to make him feel good. Homie, you're under contract. You're being paid a crap ton of money over the next handful of years. Shut up. Let the new front office come in, and if they decide you're not going to be a part of the future, that's their call. That ain't yours. That's the spot that we're at. Just a horrible game from Domantas Sabonis. Then there's DeMar DeRozan, who was quite the soundbite after the game. Here is DeMar talking about this roller coaster of a season, his first season in Sacramento, and his uncertain future with the organization. DeMar, I know you literally only had minutes to reflect on it, but how would you just assess this roller coaster of a season in your one season here in Sacramento?
I don't know. It's, I think it really won't hit me for the next couple of days. It's probably the most I've been through in my 16-year career. The season that we had, it was a lot. It's too hard to kind of like fathom right now, but I'm pretty sure over the next, couple of days it kind of hit, the reality of everything, we all went through.
DeMar, forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but when you came here, I believe you came here to compete for a championship, and for it to end this season, to end this way, how difficult is that? Obviously you said you're processing and everything, but how difficult is that realization? I
mean, it's difficult. Like I said, I'm not trying to play another 5-6 years, and you only got so many years, that window, close quick. Like I said, just, that was my 16th season down, It's just crazy to think about it next time, I suit up a jersey, playing a game. It'd be my 17th year, So, like I said, when you think about it from that perspective, it's definitely tough because you don't get many opportunities, and you don't want to waste the opportunities that you have left either. So, it's tough. Everything don't always go the way you want it to go, and sometimes that can be frustrating. But I think, it's just part of life. Like I said, the next few days, I'm sitting think.
More to that point, there's some uncertainty like here. I just wonder how much, the direction of the franchise and your own future is going to be weighing on your mind in these days to come.
I mean, of course, you always want kind of, a foundation that's stable and understanding, going forward. I'm pretty sure a lot of decisions got to be made from top to bottom. Like I said, next couple of days, next couple of weeks, just processing everything that kind of went on. From a personal standpoint, that's going to be a priority. Then we see what happens from there.
Boy, there's a lot there to unpack. It sure as hell sounds like he's gone. Does that sound like someone who's going to be back? Does that sound like someone who doesn't regret his decision to come here in Sacramento? He said repeatedly he chose the Kings to win. Instead, he just said he's been through one of the craziest, hardest, whatever word you want to use to describe it, one of the craziest, hardest, worst seasons he's ever experienced in his career. Doug Christie kind of echoed more of the same. I'm not going to play the audio for you, but Doug talked about he's never seen anything like what the Sacramento Kings went through this season. And the organization did it to themselves. Can't blame anybody else. Oh, we don't have a point guard. We can't beat the Dallas Mavericks. We're turning the ball over because we don't have a point guard. Why don't you have a point guard? Because you chose to move on from not just one of them, but all of them. Davion Mitchell helped the Miami Heat get a win in the freaking play-in tournament. They cooked the crap out of the Chicago Bulls. Davion Mitchell, you traded him away for nothing. You drafted a point guard in Devin Carter, who's one, not a true point guard, and two, was hurt half the damn season, so he's behind the eight ball. You tried to force Malik Monk into a point guard position. That's not his spot. And even if Malik Monk was playing, I don't know how different this result would have been tonight. You put yourself in that spot. So woe is me about, all the turmoil we faced in the organization this season. Nah, y'all did it to yourselves. And I think DeMar DeRozan knows that. I think DeMar DeRozan's gone. Talk about a mutual parting of ways with Monte McNair and the Sacramento Kings. How about a mutual parting of ways with DeMar DeRozan and the Sacramento Kings? DeMar does not want to waste the rest of his career playing here in Sacramento. The Sacramento Kings more than likely are going to want to move on from him and his $24.5 million that he makes next season. They're going to want to move on from that and try and free up that cap space or use him to get some kind of young talent or something. DeMar DeRozan's days as a Sacramento King should be over. For all parties, should be over. Just make it happen. Move on. There are fun moments. The experiment failed. It sucks. Whatever. Move on. I think it needs to happen for both parties. Tonight, DeMar DeRozan had 33 points, but did so on 13 of 28 shooting, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, played 43 freaking minutes in tonight's game. Then there's Zach Lavine. Zach Lavine is the guy out of the big three that I expect to be part of the Kings' future the most, simply because of his contract and how bad it is. Zach didn't do anything to inspire much optimism for the future for me tonight. I am curious to see what the Kings could try and do and put around him and what it could look like for a full season. But curious does not mean that I expect it to be successful. I'm just more curious to see what it could potentially look like. Zach Lavine tonight, 20 points, 8 of 19 from the field, 4 of 10 from three-point range. I think he had 9 assists, but turned the ball over 5 times. Played 44 freaking minutes in this game. Not exactly a performance that silences the doubters and the people that saying, well, when it comes to a big game, when Zach Lavine plays a big game, he loses. He doesn't perform. Well, 3 straight seasons, the Chicago Bulls have been eliminated from the play-in. 2 of those seasons with DeRozan and Lavine together in Chicago, and the Sacramento Kings said, oh, you know what will make it better if we do it in the Western Conference? It's an even harder conference. We're surprised it didn't work? Again, writing has been on the freaking wall. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Yeah, that's a real thing. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console is required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play included, and you'll be ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, as easy as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. It has the latest technology for elevated playing with Wi-Fi 6-6E and auto low latency mode. Advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds. You need to stay competitive. Endless entertainment, 4K streaming. Watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Plus affordable, portable gaming like I just laid out. The Fire TV Stick is a must-have for everyone at home in your entertainment center. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. So we've talked about the main three that are owed $115 million and the decisions you have to make about the three of them. What about the supporting cast? Like, let's be honest. We already talked about how bad Sabonis was in this game. He kind of played support when he's not supposed to. Really, Devin Carter was the only main impactful role player that you had tonight. Devin freaking Carter was. He had a big three in that first quarter, the only time the Kings were making any kind of noise. As soon as Devin Carter came out of the game and the Kings starting lineup plus Trey Lyles was in, that's when everything fell apart, when the Sacramento Kings were outscored 44-19 in the second freaking quarter. That's where this game ended. Devin Carter was the only solid, impactful role player on this Kings team tonight. Keon Ellis, non-freaking factor. Got in foul trouble, barely did anything. Keegan Murray, non-factor. I've never seen Keegan Murray more out of control in a game than he was tonight. Now, I do think Keegan was trying to force things and make things happen and trying to get to the foul line and get to the rim because the Kings were playing god-awful and he knew he needed to create something. He was trying to be aggressive. I appreciate him for that. It didn't work. It was a disaster. Trey Lyles, non-freaking factor in this game. Jonas Valanciunas had good moments. Ultimately, not a factor in this game. So, look, there are a lot of fan favorites in those guys that I just laid out there. You know how much I love Keegan Murray. We all love Keon Ellis. We all love Jonas Valanciunas. All of those guys that I just listed may be gone. Maybe. Malik Monk too. Who knows? It's for the new front office to come in and make the decisions. Now, it's very difficult to completely overhaul and have a fresh new roster at the beginning. I expect Devin Carter to be back. I expect Zach Lavine to be back. I expect Keon Ellis to be back. I hope Keegan Murray is back. Beyond that, field day, man. Jake LaRavia would be great. Jonas Valanciunas, wouldn't hate it. There's players on this roster that I like, but if you bring back 2/3 or more of this roster next season, freaking forget about it. Or I hope that you are operating with the expectation that you're going to be a bad basketball team and hoping you're going to be so bad that you'll actually get a halfway decent lottery pick that you don't have this summer because you're likely losing it to Atlanta. Bad, man. It's bad. You know, I tweeted out midway through the fourth quarter that this Kings team quit on Doug Christie. They quit on Mike Brown earlier this season. That was Mike Brown's fault. Mike Brown lost the locker room. It was on Mike that these players quit on him. And when I put that out there, immediately I got caught, Matt, the Kings didn't quit on Doug Christie. They're just not a very good basketball team. Here's how the Sacramento Kings quit on Doug Christie. Did they stop playing? No. Did they stop fighting? No. But did they stop doing what needed to be done? Did they stop trying to execute, work together as a team, do the things that Doug Christie has been trying to instill in them over the last handful of months? Yes. The you-know-what hit the fan in the second quarter. After that, you had a down 23 at halftime. You had an opportunity to rally. I'm sure Doug Christie had some rah-rah speech or someone in the locker room spoke up. You come out, rest of the game, zero cohesion. You go back to your same old, familiar, toxic, ISO-heavy, nonsensical offense. The defense was a turnstile. The Kings weren't playing any sort of defense with physicality until the Mavericks were already touching the paint and scoring around the rim. Just pathetic. And what did I tell you? I said this on the Locked On Kings podcast that I recorded, the preview that I recorded with Nick Angstead of Locked On Mavericks. I said that the way the Mavericks beat the Sacramento Kings is turn them over because they don't have an established playmaker. Well, they did that. The Kings turned the ball over 18 freaking times. Out-rebound them. Out-physical them, which it's easy to do when you have 3 freaking centers on that roster. I guess Anthony Davis is a 4, but you know what I mean. And shoot the 3. Because the Sacramento Kings not only are the worst 3-point defense in the league, they've been so all this season, all last season too. In this building, the Kings allow the highest opponent 3-point shooting percentage on their home floor than any team in the league by a wide freaking margin. And what happened? The Dallas Mavericks, who are 26th in the NBA and made threes per game, and averaged 36% from 3-point range, came into your building, knocked down 14 threes, and shot 50 freaking percent from 3. It's so unbelievably predictable. It's Kings basketball. Sorry, it's Kings basketball. Kings is back. I don't know how they get out of it. This is very different from a handful of years ago when the Kings went into their offseason with Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox, when they had these 2 young assets that they didn't know if they worked together, but they had these 2 young pieces that hopefully could turn into something in this core that they were trying to build. Oh, no. They don't. The young core is gone. They have 2 30-plus-year-olds, one of them 35, 36 years old. Sorry, 3 of them now. Sabonis is over 30 now, isn't he? He's in his 30s. You don't have a young core. You don't have a future. You went for win now with a non-winning team, with a proven a proven product that doesn't work. And you went win now with that because you just thought it was going to be different. This summer is going to suck. Needed things hopefully are going to happen this summer, but it's going to suck. Next season might suck again. 2 years ago, man. 2 years ago. No matter what happens this summer, all off season long, Locked On Kings ain't going anywhere. I'll be here for you. We'll talk about it. We'll get through it together. I now open the floor to you. Your thoughts on this season, your thoughts on this game tonight, your thoughts on Monte McNair being fired. Let them fly. Comment section on YouTube. Hit me up there. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Of course, you can tweet me too, @MattGeorgeSack on Twitter, if you want to there. I think the summer starts tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Kings, they haven't officially announced it, but I'm pretty sure the Kings are doing exit interviews tomorrow morning. We'll speak to all the players, speak to Doug Christie, see what happens. Just, Kings, please freaking do it right. None of this shortcut BS or out of order BS anymore. Do it right. Ownership, make the decision of who your GM's going to be, and then get the hell out of the way. Do I have faith that they're going to do it right? No. We'll see. Appreciate your support all season long. Sorry it's such a depressing end. I'll talk to you again tomorrow when we've allowed this to kind of soak in and reflect on it a little bit more. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.